And welcome back to all our Bi-Conics Wrestling Podcast fans, and welcome to a double review this week for Monday Night Raw and NXT. I decided to combine things, whereas we're getting closer to builds for SummerSlam for the main roster, and we have our go-home show for the Great American Bash for NXT. I figured I'd give you every important detail that you need to know for these two shows, as honestly, there wasn't really too much going on for either one, but I'm here to give you the review anyways. So, we're going to double review this, which means the first half of this video is going to focus on Monday Night Raw, so you can check the timestamps below if you want to skip ahead to the NXT review, or if you want to sit through both reviews, go right ahead. We'd love to see it. Make sure to give us a like and subscribe on the YouTube, and make sure to follow us all over the social medias to stay up to date on everything we got going on. But without further ado, let's get this Monday Night Raw review started. We start Monday Night Raw like we have been the last couple of weeks. Judgment Day is in the ring. They give a promo introducing everyone, hyping them up. Dominic Mysterio tries to talk and everyone boos that man to high heaven. And then eventually Sami Zayn and Kevin Owens come out. Kevin Owens is still doing this thing where he's trying to break the fourth wall. He states that we've been here before, they've done the exact same thing last week, and confirms with Sami that everything is not a dream, and Kevin Owens hates when people don't learn their lesson, so KO gets angry, and that no one will ever care what Dominic has to say, and so he just needs to shut up. So literally, all this sets up is that we're getting Sami Zayn versus Dominic Mysterio for the NXT North American Championship later that night. Again, it is what it is. Judgment Day is always starting out Monday Night Raw now. And, they're going to be here for the long haul. After this, we get an excellent match between Becky Lynch and Zoe Stark. The stipulation here is that if Becky wins, she gets a rematch against Trish Stratus. And if not, Becky Lynch has to get a Thank You Trish tattoo somewhere on her body. Let's be all the way 100, that stipulation was stupid. But Becky Lynch beats Zoe Stark and earns her rematch against Trish Stratus. Obviously, I'm pretty sure we're getting that match at SummerSlam. Who knows what's going to happen between now and then. Next, we get our weekly segment of Cody Rhodes cutting a promo. So, in Tampa Bay, he basically talks about his feud with Brock Lesnar and that he's impressed. Brock Lesnar is a UFC heavyweight championship, was in the NFL without playing one day professionally. But you know what? Cody Rhodes doesn't care about all that, and at SummerSlam, he's going to close the chapter on this and be done with it. And I hope to high heaven that is exactly what we're getting from this feud. I want it to be done and over with, and both men can move on to what needs to happen next. We then get our North American Championship match between Dominic and Sami Zayn. Sami obviously is giving Dom the whatnot, and he goes for a haluva kick, but Damian Priest and Rhea Ripley attack KO on top of the stage, which distracts Sami for Dominic to pin him with the most devastating move in all wrestling history, the surprise roll-up. So therefore, Dominic Mysterio is still your NXT North American Champion. Next, we get a backstage segment, which basically sets up the match later the night, where Apollo Crews calls out Damian Priest and Judgment Day and is tired of them being bullies. Damian Priest tells Apollo Crews that he needs to keep his attitude and his mouth in check. So basically, this sets up Apollo Crews and Damian Priest for later. In what was probably the best match of the whole entire 3 hours, in my opinion, we get Bronson Reed taking on Tommaso Ciampa. This feud has been continuing for the last couple of weeks. This was a really excellent match. And Tommaso Ciampa, actually no. Bronson Reed picks up the victory with a slight distraction from Shinsuke Nakamura. Obviously, I think we're either going to get Shinsuke and Bronson or Miz and Bronson versus Johnny and Tommaso. If we don't get this match at SummerSlam, I'm going to be very upset. Next up, we do have our match, or what was supposed to be a match between Liv Morgan and Rhea Ripley. Unfortunately, Rhea Ripley brutally attacks Liv Morgan before the match starts, so the match has to be called off. This is to write Liv Morgan off of television, as she is set to go rehab an injury she supposedly has So we'll see what happens. I'm interested to see if we're going to get a challenger for Rhea Ripley at SummerSlam, given the fact that both Morgan and Raquel Rodriguez are out. Liv is out with a real injury, and still no word if Raquel is out on a kayfabe or a real injury. But Rhea's spot at SummerSlam is in question, and I'm interested to see if we're even going to have a title match with her at SummerSlam. Next, we get a video package from Maxine and Alpha Academy that says that next week, Maxine is going to have her singles debut against Valhalla. You guys, when I tell you that Alpha Academy is probably the best thing that Monday Night Raw has going on for them, I am not exaggerating. That is just pure fact. And I'm excited to see what Maxine can do with that match. Next, we get Ricochet coming in the ring talking about how he's tired of being disrespected from Logan Paul. Logan Paul comes in, which is talks a copious amount of crap. Ricochet kicks him in the face, and this is furthering this match that is going to happen at SummerSlam. Next, we get a squash match, which is essentially a 3-minute match. Damian Priest defeats Apollo Crews. Poor Apollo, you go back to NXT. Like, I didn't like what they had for him in NXT, but at least he was on weekly television and at the PLEs. And this man's has been not having a great time back on the main roster, which I'll get into a little bit later. Next, Gunther and Drew McIntyre face off against each other in a back and forth promo, which sets up a match for SummerSlam. It is going to be Gunther defending the Intercontinental Championship against Drew McIntyre. And then we proceed into the next part where Drew McIntyre takes on Ludwig. Drew McIntyre defeats Ludwig, and Imperium try to attack Drew. Matt Riddle comes down for the save, but the numbers game is still not helping out. And Gunther tries to put Drew through the announcer table, but Drew slips out and puts Gunther through the table instead. So the reports that Drew is going to take the title off Gunther is starting to be more and more prevalent, but we shall see what happens at SummerSlam. We get promos from both Shayna Baszler and Ronda Rousey, essentially confirming that their match is set for SummerSlam and they're going to fight each other, they're going to kill each other. We shall see how that happens. I hope Shayna wins this one. I really do. Next, we get, before our main event, we get 2 placards that tell us that Brock Lesnar and Logan Paul are set to return, which is weird because we just saw them the other weekend, this week, respectively, but whatever. I'm ready for this feud to be over. In our main event segment for Monday Night Raw, we have our contract signing between Seth Rollins and Finn Balor for the World Heavyweight Championship. Some words are exchanged back and forth. Seth says that Finn does not have what it takes to be champion. Finn says that he's been waiting 7 long years to get his revenge against Seth Rollins for injuring him and taking away his first real main roster title reign as the Universal Championship 7 years ago at SummerSlam. Eventually, Judgment Day begins to surround the ring, and Seth Rollins does his best to fight them off, but 4-on-1 does not suit well for Seth, and eventually Judgment Day beats Seth Rollins down. But there is some tension between Damian Priest and Finn Balor as Damian Priest looks at the Money in the Bank briefcase along with Finn, and there's a little tension, but ultimately they get shaken off, and the Judgment Day stand tall to end Monday Night Raw this week. Where do I even begin? Listen, I'm not the biggest fan of Monday Night Raw, at least the last couple of weeks post-WrestleMania, given the fact that the show has had significant changes last minute. People are getting injured. Liv Morgan and Kevin Owens are supposedly out on injury, which is going to hurt, the women's roster. Kevin Owens is one half of the WWE Undisputed Tag Team Champions. So if he's not ready to go, what does that mean for Sami Zayn and the tag titles? And overall, I'm still of the mindset that a 3-hour wrestling show is a lot. And this is where my big problem comes in. It is the same people we see every single week. You have a 3-hour show. Is there a possibility you can rotate players in and out each week so it's not the same folks on my TV screen every single week? Because it's slowly starting to get stale. And they're going to run the risk and run into the problem that everyone's going to get bored because we're seeing the same people on TV week in and week out. So I'm hoping that Monday Night Raw will start to switch their players around, have a rotation where we can get 3 sets of storylines on 3 separate weeks and just keep rotating those in and out. But given the fact of where the product is currently heading, who's to say we're going to get that? I'm excited for the matches we have so far confirmed for SummerSlam. We have about a week or two to figure out what the rest of the matches are. We still don't know if Rhea is going to have a match for the World Heavyweight Women's Championship at SummerSlam. I don't know how we're going to continue to build out the feuds because it's the same tropes that we're seeing. But overall, Monday Night Raw was okay. It wasn't the worst thing on the planet because there have been worse shows. Need I point to the WrestleMania after Raw one was awful. And I watched that one live and it was hurtful. But overall, I think this Raw was okay. I do hope that the matches that have yet to be confirmed for my predictions do happen. But it was an okay episode of Raw. It wasn't necessarily the worst, but it wasn't the greatest thing ever. And I'm hoping post SummerSlam we can finally start building up new storylines and get out of the ones that we are currently in. But that is going to conclude my Monday Night Raw review. Don't go anywhere because I will be back shortly to review NXT from this week, so grab a snack and I'll be right back. And welcome back. Hope you enjoyed your snack. And now let's just jump straight into NXT. This week's episode is interesting for the fact that this is technically the go-home show before NXT's Great American Bash pay-per-view happening this Sunday. I'm looking forward to the pay-per-view, and I will be reviewing it on Monday with the Professor, hopefully. Hopefully schedules will work out, but expect a fun review on Monday. But let's jump into this week's episode. So NXT, just like Monday Night Raw, starts off with Judgment Day, but it is just Dominic Mysterio and Rhea Ripley talking about how Dominic is the greatest North American champion in NXT history. They go back and forth and talk crap. Rhea mentions that if Lyra Valkyria wants to step up to her, that she can, and ultimately these two are interrupted by Wes Lee, who's all upset at the fact that Dominic beat him and that he wants a rematch. And then all of a sudden Mustafa Ali comes out, is mad at Dominic, also mad at Wes Lee. Ultimately, this is a back and forth where Ali says that Wes Lee dropped the ball, he's a clown, he's stupid, and Wesley gets upset, so him and Mustafa Ali begin to brawl as Dominic and Rhea get out of the ring. We do get confirmation later in the episode that it is going to be a triple threat for the North American Championship. I will run down the Great American Bash card at the end of this episode, but let's continue with the review. So as it was mentioned after this interview, if it wasn't already said before, they do confirm that the main event for tonight's episode is going to be Rhea Ripley taking on Lyra Valkyria, which I'm excited for. The first main match that we had this week in NXT saw Carmelo Hayes, your NXT champion, with Trick Williams and hit challenger Ilya Dragunov to the title for the Great American Bash, taking on the Schism, which is Joe Gacy and the Dyad. I thought this was a fine match. I like when any of these 6 wrestlers get involved. What was surprising, though, is towards the finishing sequence of this match, 2 of the Dyad members pull this Dyad off of the ring apron. I'm guessing this has to be the Creeds. But ultimately, Carmelo, Trick Williams, and Ilya pick up the win. There was a miscommunication, though, as Ilya was trying to take down Joe Gacy, but he moved out of the way, which caused Ilya to throw Trick Williams and headbutt him into the staircase, and Trick was not having it, and this would not be the last we saw of it. More to come with that later. After that, we get a squash match in which Von Wagner, everyone's favorite NXT K fan, puts Javier Barnell through a table. And after the match, as the crowd is getting behind Von Wagner, who comes out and spears Von Wagner but a wild Braun Breaker. Now, I have questions about this because ever since Braun Breaker lost his against Seth Rollins, he's been floating in NXT for the last couple of weeks since Gold Rush. And I'm not sure what there is left for him to do in NXT if he's not chasing the championship. And don't get me wrong, I'm not the biggest fan of Von Wagner, but he's slowly coming around to me. But I think putting Braun Breaker into a feud with Von Wagner doesn't really elevate either individual. But I'm going to have to wait and see what it is. But it seems that we're going to be getting this feud between these two. After a couple of video packages that are hyping up some of the other matches at the Great American Bash, next up we have Olympic gold medalist Gable Stevenson come to the ring talking about where his future, whether he's going to go back to school, whether he's going to train again to go to the Olympics again. And before he makes a decision, Baron Corbin comes out and basically says that I'm here, I'll make your decision easier. If you stay here, you have to realize you're going to go against me, and I'm here for blood. And basically, they're resetting Baron Corbin's character to just job him out more, all right? Which is disappointing because he had a phenomenal match against Carmelo Hayes at Gold Rush for the NXT Championship. And even though he lost, I thought we were going to do something interesting with his character, but obviously that's not what's going to happen. Ultimately, what this sets up is that Stevenson is going to be staying in NXT, and he will have his first official match at the Great American Bash and take on Baron Corbin. This should be good. Baron Corbin is a safe worker, so I'm sure that him and Gable will do amazingly there. I'm interested to see whether Gable will win or Baron will win, but I'm going to have to save that and watch it on Sunday to see what happens. What I thought was a pretty decent match. We next see Dana Brooke take on Cora Jade in a kendo stick match. There were a couple questions I have, like if this is a kendo stick match, like what was the point of having it if chairs are legal? But honestly, the kendo shots were very brutal and the chairs weren't very utilized the whole entire time, so I'll let it slide. I thought this was an awesome match. I am a Dana Brooke. I unapologetically love Dana Brooke, and I will stand her in a day. Honestly, I thought Cora was going to win this match. I was surprised they gave the win to Dana, but I don't think this feud is over, and I thought this was an excellent match, and I hope people stop hating on Dana because I think Dana is awesome. She does everything that WWE gives her, and the fans, for some reason, always want to make her feel less than and talk crap about her, and I think she's very talented. This was actually a really fun match, and I hope we get to see more of this feud between her and Cora Jade. We get a backstage segment with more Dominic Mysterio and Rhea Ripley as Rhea's getting ready for her match against Lyra Valkyria. So then we fast forward in which we see a tag team match between the family, which is Tony D'Angelo and Lorenzo Stacks, taking on our new tag team that we got to see a bit of last week, Bronco Nima and Lucian P. Price. God, it's going to take me a while to get used to those names. Ultimately, I thought this was a fun match. It set up the family to take the win here as they have a title match at the Great American Bash coming soon. But also the other important thing is that Scripps was at commentary for this desk and he gets jumped by Axiom. So it looks like we're going to have a feud between those two. Give me more luchador flippy stuff. It's going to be a good time. In what I can only describe as giving shades to the Booker T and Stone Cold Steve Austin grocery store brawl, we next see Roxanne Perez and Blair Davenport fight in like a tiny convenience store where there's cans being thrown, tables are being thrown, like ice chests, boxes. It was giving shades of Attitude Era wrestling, and while it wasn't as long or as clean as the Attitude Era version, this was fun to watch, and this ultimately sets up for what type of match we're getting between these two at the Great American Bash, and I'm excited to see these two women go at it. Probably in the least interesting segment of the night, we have in-ring promo with Metaphor trying to cheer up Noam Dar because he lost the NXT Heritage Cup, and they present him with the fake cup, which then has the real Heritage Cup champion Nathan Frazier with Dragon Lee come out, and then Luisa Ferron and Ulisa Leon and I'm forgetting the names, but the two women that are with Nathan Frazier and Dragon Lee. Ultimately, this served the purpose to set up a 4-on-4 match for the kickoff show for the Great American Bash. It's interesting to see NXT is the only brand that is doing kickoff matches, but they worked. As someone who was there live in person in Los Angeles for the Stand and Deliver pay-per-view, the kickoff match was Tyler Bate and Chase U taking on the Schism, which was Joe Gacy, the Dyad, and then Ava Raine, which was also her in-ring debut. Remember, Ava Raine is The Rock's daughter. I'm hoping to see more of her wrestle eventually soon. But for the Great American Bash kickoff, it is Nathan Frazier, Dragon Lee, and the girls taking on Metaphor. So hopefully that match will be interesting. We get a follow-up of what happened last week between Los Lotharios, which is Humberto Carrillo, and Angel Garza, in which they're fighting, where Humberto is tired of Angel Garza's crap, and he basically tells him, what are we doing? Are we chasing women, or are we chasing glory? So, basically, he's like gold before hose, apparently, so this should be interesting. I hope this tag team doesn't break up. I love these two as a tag team, and I do want to see a tag team title run, but we shall see what comes of it. In our main event, in a non-title match, we have Rhea Ripley taking on Lyra Valkyria. This was the match of the night. I don't care what nobody says. Lyra and Rhea have history from NXT UK, as well as wrestling on the British independent wrestling scene in the UK as well. This was a nice back and forth, and what I appreciated is that Dominic Mysterio didn't get involved in any way, shape, or form. He took a kick to the face from Lyra for Rhea Ripley, but to that extent, he didn't get on the apron, he didn't try to distract Lyra, he didn't get physically involved, and that's what I wanted from this match, and I got it, and Rhea Ripley pinned Lyra Valkyria clean. Even though in loss, Rhea Ripley tells Lyra at the end of the match, prove me right. Don't let JC Jane beat you and beat her ass. And so it seems that Lyra and JC's feud is going to continue, and I'm hoping that Lyra becomes more aggressive because of her friendship in this match with Rhea Ripley. I'm going to talk about how we ended NXT this week, and then I'm going to give a preview of the Great American Bash card. We ended this week's NXT in which Trick Williams comes out and he calls out Ilya Dragunov, still mad about the headbutt he received in their match earlier. Ilya comes out and breaks off of Trick as Ilya is ready to destroy Trick again. Carmelo takes a bullet for Trick, and basically Ilya tells Carmelo that he is a man of honor and says loyalty is very rare nowadays, and tells him to keep his friendship with Trick, for it will be the only thing that is left after Ilya takes the NXT championship from Carmelo at the Great American Bash and ends NXT this week by holding the championship up a beaten Carmelo and Trick Williams as the show goes off the air. Ultimately, this week's show was nothing special. It is a go-home show, so we got lots of promos and video packages and some fun in-ring action, not necessarily my favorite. Obviously, the standout match is the main event, which is Rhea Ripley versus Lyra Valkyria. Please, I ask if you love women's wrestling or just good wrestling in general, that is the match that I would watch from this week. Now, the last thing that I'm going to take care of is we're going to preview the NXT North American Bash lineup, because it's actually looking to be a pretty fun one. So, to kick off the show on Sunday, we're going to get a 4-on-4 match between Nathan Frazier, Dragon Lee, and the two girls taking on Metaphor. I think Metaphor is going to somehow find a way to win here, because I don't see this feud ending at Great American Bash. But who knows? I could be wrong. And then we jump into the main card proper, where we have some pretty decent matches, and I wasn't too sure how they were going to build this card, given the fact that when they announced this pay-per-view, we didn't start getting matches for it until about a couple weeks ago. But I am really excited to see how everything goes. So, on the main card for the Great American Bash, we have a triple threat match for the North American Championship, for the NXT North American Championship, We have champion Dominic Mysterio. I still hate saying those words. Taking on Mustafa Ali and Wesley. So obviously, I think Dominic is going to retain here. I think Rhea Ripley is going to be involved in the finish of this match somehow. And we'll see how this goes. Next up, we have for the NXT Women's Championship match, we have champion Tiffany Stratton defending her title against Thea Hale in a submission match. Now, the way that this match has been built is that the last couple of weeks, Thea Hale has been using the Kimura lock to win a lot of her matches recently. And last week, she had a promo against Tiffany, and Tiffany wasn't going to add any stipulation, but Thea put her in a Kimura lock to make her add that stipulation. Either some interference is going to happen, or who knows, Tiffany might actually reverse Thea and make her tap out. Ultimately, I see Tiffany retaining the title here and not losing it to Thea. For the NXT Tag Team Championship match, we have the Gallus Boys, which is going to be Mark Coffey and Wolfgang, defending the titles against the D'Angelo family, which is Tony D'Angelo and Channing Stacks Lorenzo. I am going to think with my heart on this one. I want to see the D'Angelo family finally get the tag team titles. I thought they were going to win them at Stand and Deliver. I thought they were going to win them at Vengeance Day. So I'm hoping that this is the time to give the titles to the D'Angelo family. But we shall see. Next, in just a standard singles match, you have Gable Steveson taking on Baron Corbin. I'm a little iffy because I don't want either man to lose because it does nothing to them if they lose. You can't have Gable lose because it's his first match, but I think it's more okay for him to lose since it is his first match. But you don't want Baron to lose either since he just had a stellar match against Carmelo at Gold Rush. And then to be jobbed out again while he's back in NXT doesn't make a lot of sense to me, but it is what it is. We also have probably what match I'm looking forward to is the Weapons Wild match, which is basically a Falls Count Anywhere street fight match with Blair Davenport taking on Roxanne Perez. God, these women are going to kill each other. I'm excited. I'm hoping Roxanne wins this one to solidify her badassery and to give her more a bit of an edge. I think this is going to be a fantastic match. I'm excited. This might be the sleeper hit of the match. And then, of course, the main event is going to be Carmelo Hayes defending the NXT Championship against challenger Ilya Dragunov. Man, this match is going to slap. I hope it slaps. Ilya's going to kill Carmelo. Carmelo's going to pull out the stops. I think this is going to be a good match. And I see Carmelo retaining, but I also can see argument for Ilya taking the title. And that is the NXT North American Bash card preview. It airs this Sunday at 8 p.m. Eastern, so 5 p.m. Pacific for all of you who live on the West Coast. I will be watching it live this Sunday, and I will be giving my review on Monday along with the Professor, John. Hopefully, if schedules work out. I'm trying to get him into NXT so he can join me in the Garden of Madness that is the developmental brand in these NXT kids. It's a great time. But that is going to be it for the double review this week for Monday Night Raw and NXT. Come back Monday for my review of the Great American Bash PLE. Hopefully I will talk positively about it. So far, all the NXT PLEs have been really fascinating and been very interesting, and I've been thoroughly enjoyed them so far. And then, of course, you can expect another NXT review happening next week. But until then, that is going to be it. I have been your host, Mikey. Thank you so much for tuning into these reviews. And until next time, adios and sayonara.